Today's Prismatic Warlock build reimagines the old Starfire protocol Warlock build and makes it even stronger. Today I'll show you how you can absolutely melt your enemies through weakening, scorching, and unraveling while having almost instant grenade uptime. I can see this Warlock build becoming a go-to once again for tons of Warlocks, as the ability, uptime, and sheer DPS of this build is pretty impressive. So if you're looking for a build that is an absolute monster for deleting powerful enemies, then this video is for you. I'll cover the aspects, fragments, weapons, and mods you'll need to unleash this Starfire Reborn build yourself. Starting with our super, and I chose Nova Bomb Cataclysm. And the reason I chose this one is because I wanted a high damage burst super that I could use. You could go Needle Storm here as well, or really any super if you wanted to. The super choice is not really the main feature of this build. We're not really using anything that directly relies on the super we choose. So really nice thing about this build, you can choose any super you want. I personally went with Nova Bomb Cataclysm. Jumping into our abilities, we've got a little bit of a change up here from what you might see in a lot of builds, and that's Empowering Rift. To achieve that Starfire Reborn build, we got to use Empowering Rift, as we'll get into later, but this is a huge part of this build. Next, we're going to be using Arcane Needle. This can allow us to unravel our enemies and get that unraveling damage as we do damage, get the 3 melee charges, all that good stuff. And then we're going to be running Vortex Grenade. This is another huge part of this build as well. It's just going to be one other thing that's going to help us get our grenade back as quickly as possible. And for our aspects, the first one we're running is Feed the Void. This can allow us, when we defeat a target with ability, to get Activate Devour, which is going to give us a nice chunk of health, or basically full health, and a bunch of grenade energy as well. And then we're running Hellion. This is going to be when we pop our Empowering Rift. This is going to allow us to get that solar mortar. That's going to allow us to scorch our targets, get some ignitions going, all that good stuff. Just another way to get some chip damage overall. For our fragments, we are running Facet of Dawn. This is going to make sure that every time we throw our melee here, or Arcane Needle, that we're going to become radiant. We'll also get radiant from radiant orbs when we'll talk about mods. But this is another way just to make sure we're always radiant, because you're going to be a little bit more stationary in this build at times. And so being able to just trigger that radiant without having to get an orb is going to be helpful. And then we're running Facet of Protection, just to make sure we get that little extra damage resistance while running this build. And then Facet of Dominance. This is going to make sure our void grenades weaken our targets when we throw our Vortex Grenade. And then running Facet of Hope. This is going to make sure that when we have elemental buff like Devour or anything of that nature, that we will get our class ability back more quickly. And just recently, a patch that just came out this week, this fragment will actually work a lot more consistently according to Bungie, and I did test it and it does seem a little bit more consistent. So you can expect this to be an even better perk, in my opinion, than it was before. And then we have Facet of Courage. Our Arc Solar and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs, which they basically always will be, because they're always going to be debuffed by our Arcane Needle, which is going to be great. So it's going to really increase the damage of our Vortex Grenade. Jumping over to our exotic class item, and the combo we have here is really what makes this whole Starfire Reborn build possible, and it's going to be Spirit of Osmiomancy along with Spirit of Starfire. So Spirit of Osmiomancy, your grenades recharge quicker on hits, and the secret spawns from Cold Snap grenades travel farther. So we're not using Cold Snap, so you can ignore that part, but grenade recharge quicker on hits. So each time our Vortex Grenade is hitting an enemy, it's going to trigger this and get our grenade back even quicker. On top of Devour, don't forget with Devour, we're also going to be getting huge chunks of grenade energy as we get ability kills. And then Spirit of Starfire really complements this nicely. Grenades recharge from empowered weapon damage, when the powered weapon final blows, granting more energy. And so when we pop our Empowering Rift, get our Hellion going, and then we're going to use our weapons to do a ton of damage, and that's going to give us another way to get our grenade back. So you're going to be getting your grenade back constantly via Devour, via Spirit of Starfire, and then Spirit of Osmiomancy. The nice thing is about this, there are going to be times where we're not going to have an Empowering Rift, right? So having all these other methods to get our grenade energy, just make sure that the grenade energy regen is always as low as it possibly can be. And so this combo is really good, and I like it because, again, it kind of brings back that old Starfire protocol build, but I think improves on it a little bit because you got Devour. Devour really makes it, I think, better overall and stronger than ever. For our weapons, those of you that remember this build, we're gonna have to run Witherhoard, and this is just a great weapon to especially when you directly hit an enemy or a boss. It's gonna give you that constant tick of kinetic damage, and so this is especially great when using Spirit of Starfire, because when we are in our Empowering Rift and we get a hit with this, this is gonna just be ticking away, and almost like our Vortex Grenade giving us that grenade and energy back and feeding us that grenade energy, or any kills we get on the ground when Wither Horde kills an enemy and puts that blight on the ground, those will give us additional grenade energy as well. So this is really the main part of this build, or I should say one of the main parts when it comes to your weapons. The next one I'm really enjoying right now is Shearer's Wrath. Doesn't have to be adept, but with the Repulsor's Brace and destabilizing rounds, this is a great combo that one of my buddies Brave hyped up, and he was right. It's very good. But you got Repulsor's Brace, defeating a void debuff target grants an overshield. Destabilizing rounds, final blows cause nearby targets to become volatile. So this is great, just to give you another way to do some void damage, which is awesome because a lot of the stuff we're using is void, and also tie into our artifact mod choice as well. The power weapon choice here, this is important. We are using Commemoration. Essentially in your power weapon slot, you're gonna want to use a void heavy weapon. That's going to be important. As far as your energy slot goes, you can really use anything you want. Void would be preferred, but it's not critical. Void heavy weapon is going to be important. I just went with my Commemoration because this one has reconstruction, but choose your best void weapon, void heavy weapon that you love, and go ahead and make sure you put it in this slot. Now, diving into our mods, for our helmet, I chose Ashes to Assets. This is going to allow us to get us that bonus super energy on grenade kills, which you're going to be getting a lot of grenade kills on this build because of how often, as we discussed, you're going to be getting your grenade back. So this is what I would recommend for your helmet. And the more of these you can run, the better. I would say don't go over 2, kind of diminishing returns at that point. For our gloves, I'm running double firepower just to give us some an easy way to create some extra orbs, just to kick in some ability regen and as well as some surges. For your chest piece, you can just run whatever are the most relevant damage resistance mods for you. And then for the boots, as I mentioned, I'm running double kinetic weapon surge. This is great because it's going to allow our Wither Hoarders to do as much damage as possible, and we should be getting tons of orbs because of our double firepower mod. And then for our class item, I'm running Outreach, which is going to give us reduce our melee cooldown when using our class ability, and then Bomber, further reducing that grenade cooldown. Honestly, you could probably switch this out with like a double Outreach mod, or something like Powerful Attraction might be good here, so that way when you're popping a rift, if there's any orbs around you, you're going to pick up those orbs quickly, and that's going to help you get those connect surge. So honestly, Powerful Attraction might be a better choice than something like Bomber, since we're going to be getting a grenade back so quickly. And then we're going to be running Reaper. This is going to make sure that the second we get a kill after popping our class ability, we're going to get a free orb. This one's one of my favorite and just an easy way to get orb, especially around a build like this that revolves around your class ability. And then last but not least, we have our artifact mod, and I'm just going to go through the most key ones that really make this build go. Elemental Siphon is okay if you decide to use Powerful Attraction like we talked about. The big one is Void Hegemony. While you're a Void or Prismatic subclass equipped, defeating weakened targets provides a small Void overshield. So when targets are weakened, this is going to allow us to get a nice overshield, just really boosting our survivability overall. As we talked about, Radiant Orbs, picking up those orbs will make us Radiant, allow us to deal some extra damage. Galvanic Armor, I have this just on just because we're not going to really be amplified very much during this build, so not necessarily 100% critical here. Expanding Abyss is critical. Void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets, and so this is where our grenades are going to do more damage, our void weapons will do more damage. So this is where having that void heavy, and why I talked about that being so critical, it is because of Expanding Abyss. So you want to make sure you have this equipped. And then we're running Shield Crush. This will allow us to get our grenade back faster as well when Radiant, which should be a lot of the time. And so also when we have our Overshield from Hegemony or Void Hegemony, that's going to allow us to get our melee back for faster and do increased damage as well. So Shield Crush is great, just creates like a nice synergy between your melee and your grenade, especially when you have multiple kind of buffs and perks going on your character to make sure you're just getting the most out of those abilities. And so, but biggest thing here, most important, Expanding Abyss and Void Hegemony. Everything else is just nice extras, but definitely make this build very potent overall. Overall, I found with this build, it just creates a really nice loop in terms of your ability to just do a ton of damage to bosses. What you're going to want to do really is pop your Empowering Rift, throw your Void Grenade, get that weakening going, and then especially if you're focusing on a boss, you want to try to direct hit them immediately or as quickly as you can with your Wither Horde, and following up with your Arcane Needle to get that unraveling going. Also, because you popped your class ability, Hellion will be active and doing that scorch damage, and then from there you can switch to your heavy weapon, and because that enemy is getting weakened and Expanding Abyss, It's going to do extra damage from void sources. That's where we can switch to our heavy weapon that is hopefully void, and that way we'll do that extra damage in between Wither Horde and your heavy machine gun or whatever void heavy weapon you're using. You can absolutely melt bosses, enemies, whatever stands in your way. The key thing you want to make sure though is as you're going hard with your heavy weapon, once the Wither Horde starts ticking, you want to switch back to it, because hopefully you have the catalyst and it's automatically reloaded by then, and you can do another direct hit, get that damage tick going, keep the grenade regen going, all that good stuff, and keep throwing your grenades, keep the weakening going, and you're just going to be able to keep throwing grenades throughout all of this, allowing you to just burst damage bosses very quickly. So really fun loop. The only thing you got to keep in mind is survivability. The survivability is quite good, but just like anything, if you don't pop a rift near cover and you just pop out in the middle of nowhere, especially in high level content with a rift, in any level content with any build, you're gonna die. So just keep that in mind as you try out this build. But let me know in the comments below if you've tried any build similar to this with like a kind of Starfire Reborn type of situation, because I think a lot of people really miss that older Warlock build. It was a staple for I think almost everyone, and so this was a really fun one to try to bring back.